Hello, my name is Soumya, and I am going to be talking about the first chapter of biology, wherein I introduce you to the different aspects of biology. And the name of this topic is Themes in the Study of Life. Okay, now mostly what I do as a habit is the first or second slide or third slide, I sort of give a listing of what are the important points that you should know from this chapter. Like you should know what's the property of life, what is reductionism, what are emergent properties, what is systems biology, and what unites all the living forms, what makes us different, what is observation, what is hypothesis, what is a theory, what is variable, what is a control, what is data, what is qualitative and quantitative data, the difference between the two, inductive and deductive reasoning. Okay, so let's start. What is biology? Now, lots of people, when I just throw this question in class, come up with, oh, it's the study of life. Sometimes they just read what is in the PowerPoint and then they say, yeah, what is the study of life? Or it is life in general, living, and ecosystem, or cell, or genetics, anything they can come up with. Okay, so it's like lots of different things encompasses different facets of biology. It is very difficult to explain in one sentence, so let's try to split it in different parts and understand it bit by bit. Okay, so what properties of life? Now there are 7 major properties of life. Okay, at least the ones that are listed. Okay, one is in life you'll always see some sort of order. The best example I could give is if you see the arrangement of a flower or arrangement of a cactus, like one of these ordered kind of petals and everything that you would see. That in one of those things you would see order. Then responding to environment, meaning what? You work out now in the cold months of January. You work out and you feel cold and you will sort of shiver. Oh, I'm feeling cold, kind of. So that means you are responding to the environment, and then what? Your body starts to shiver. Okay. Then there's another one wherein you process energy. Means what? First of all, you know the time hits 12 and your stomach starts rumbling, you're hungry, so then you want to go and eat, and then once you eat you feel a little what do you call, there is a zest or pep in your step, you're energized. Okay, so that's basically processing of energy is bracketed under that. Okay, then you have reproduction. All living creatures reproduce. Okay, so that is there. Now they reproduce, that is one of the things. Second is then you see growth and development. Now development as such, when you see, okay, development is from one cell to a fetus. Okay, growth on the other hand is a baby grows to an adult. Okay, so there you see, when we are talking about order, you have ordered structures. I mean, life is in a very nice pattern, you can see. Sometimes you have evolutionary adaptation, and that is actually a seahorse, and it looks exactly like the coral that amidst which it's hiding. Okay, so it's camouflaging. Okay, a camouflage to hide, to survive. Yeah, okay. Now response to environment. Everyone knows this. Most of my class would end up saying, oh yeah, that's the Venus flytrap. What is the Venus flytrap doing? Basically, this plant is a Venus flytrap. It's trapping a fly or a dragonfly. Now, why? Why would you see a plant which is known all over the world to be an autotroph, meaning it can make its own food? Why would it go and eat a fly? Okay, for that you have to first go and see what kind of environment does this kind of plant grow in. Then you will know that it is growing in peat bogs. Now these areas are very deficient in nitrogen. Okay, and so what happens is this plant cannot make any protein, or it is deficient in protein. So it sort of survives by devising a mechanism where it can acquire a protein, meaning an insect and the protein products from that, digesting it out. Okay, so that is one. Then you have, everyone knows that this is a jackrabbit. Where would you see a jackrabbit? In the desert. Okay, now desert, the temperature is very, very high. So that means you can get heated up. And if you want to regulate your body temperature, you have to give away that heat. So it has these ears which are large and sort of like opened out like a fan like structure, which would give away the excess heat, and sort of it cools its body down in that process. Now, energy processing. This hummingbird is able to take nectar and food in the form of nectar from different plants, and it is able to give some energy for its body cells to break it down and make ATP. And we'll all come to these big words later, but it makes ATP, and that ATP is used for other processes like movement, flying, and so on and so forth. Okay, so then you have reproduction. That is one fact of life. Okay, and growth and development, which comes next to it. Okay. Okay, so I'm trying to connect the different themes so that you understand the different facets of biology. For that, for biological organization, you have to understand three main topics. One is emergent properties, okay, or reductionism and systems biology. Okay, emergent properties. For this, I would like you to step and think about, say you were little and for your Christmas present your uncle got you a bike. So he ordered, uncle stays somewhere else, so he ordered for a bike, and then the bike came in one package like this. Now, is that a bike? Nah. What is it? It has got handlebars, it has got the wheel, it has got the seat, it has got the pedal, okay, it has got the rods, it has got all of these things. You have to put it together. Okay, so at this stage, what is it? Is it a bike? No, it's not a bike. What is it? It is parts of a bike. Does it function like a bike? No, it doesn't. So what does it function like? What is this? It is rubber, metal, rod, plastic. So they would just behave like rubber, metal, plastic, whatever. When you put it all together and make it into a bike, a proper fully functional bike where a person can sit, now it functions like a bike. It moves, it stops, does a lot of other things. This tells you that this at one level, whatever those elements were present, the same elements were put together, but their function changed, their form changed, their properties changed. Okay, so every step, from one step to the other, when you move up, you have emergent properties. Your properties change. Another example of emergent properties is, you see, sodium is a metal, okay, and chlorine is a gas. So this is their property. Now when they are together, they become sodium chloride. Now what is sodium chloride? Salt. Does it look like chlorine gas? No. Does it look like the sodium metal? No. So individually, as they existed, they had different properties. Once they were put together, their properties changed. Got that? So that is what I mean by emergent properties. Okay, so then you have something known as reductionism. Now reductionism, what he's trying to say is kind of like exactly opposite to the way you would consider. Here you're going up every level, but here on the other hand, you are going down and further, going down to find out further details. Okay, okay, from the say a spaceship, you're looking at the earth, you're looking at the blue sea, and then some green and some maps and geographical regions and so on and so forth. You can see this. So what would you call it? Biosphere. It's just earth. That's all you can see. Now when you zoom in, okay, so when you're zooming in, what do? You go to the next level, wherein you choose any one geographical region. Say I'm going to choose North America. In that, say I choose the temperate ecosystem. Okay, so if I'm choosing that ecosystem, I'm going there. What do I see? I see maple trees, pine trees, deer. Okay, so let me just write down that so you'll get it. So in that temperate ecosystem, I see maple tree, pine, then bushes, grass, squirrel, deer, fox, wolf, bear, different kinds of birds, the bald eagle, insects, and everything, all that. So from biosphere, you went down to see an ecosystem. From an ecosystem, you saw a community. Okay, and so on and so forth. So what happens is, at every level you start to zoom in and you start to see the specifics, greater details of one kind. So this kind of studying is called reductionism. Okay, then the last one is systems biology. Systems biology, now the best way to explain is, once there was this tsunami, okay, and it hit the coasts of Japan, and it was sort of telecast wide world. Everyone knew what was happening, and so on and so forth. Then lots of people wanted to know why it happened. The why. Now, one is, I can write down and I can tell you. You can understand, or I can actually make a diorama. Diorama I can make, and I can show how it took place. See, I use a model, right? So So when I use a model at that time, like for example, in the bathtub, I can fill it with water, I can create some land zones, I can create some waves, and then I can show how that entire thing comes and covers and then brings in the rest of the material. So you basically see the process and you sort of understand it because of models being made to explain. This facet is called systems biology. Okay, the properties of the system changes from what we started with, and it sort of changes to a combination of components that function together. Okay, so that is done. So this explains emergent properties, this explains reductionism, this explains systems biology. Okay. Okay. Okay, so the reductionism, basically it's like this. So you look at one Russian doll, you take it out, you'll see another one, you'll take it out, you'll see another one. You keep on going to the lower levels like this, and you will see specificity. All right, so okay, so we go to the next one. So I sort of made a mnemonic to understand and remember the reductionism. Okay, so you have biosphere, that was your earth. Then you chose an ecosystem, that means you went down to a little more specific region. One ecosystem you chose, say deciduous forest in this case. Or then you saw it was made up of a community of trees, animals, birds, insects, everything put together. Okay, a population is a population of one kind. I often have my students getting confused between a community and a population. Community is many kinds. Population is one species. Very important. From that, if I choose one organism, okay, it can be one organism. An entire maple tree is considered one organism. It's one life, right? It has different organ systems, right? Different organs and organ systems. So now, in this particular case, we choose one leaf, and the leaf, it is composed of many tissues. Okay, there are many kinds. You will have palisade tissue, palisade. You can have mesophyll. You can have epidermal. So many, right? Yeah. So you can have different kinds of tissues. We choose one kind of tissue and one cell from that, and each cell will be having all the different cell organelles present in it. One organelle, and we can still study it. And in that, you can study one particular kind of macromolecule that is present. Okay, or one molecule that is present. And then you can go on to slightly lower levels. After this, the molecule of, and then what do you call, atoms, and that's it. You have gone down as much as you could. So basically, I'm trying to say is, at every level, you're just studying the earth. You're studying about just how the earth behaves, what is the temperature like, what are the climate patterns, what is the revolution, what is the rotation, what is the axis, what is in the equator, what are the longitudes, what are the latitudes, so on and so forth. So in that, you have so many things to study. Then if you move on one ecosystem, you have so many things to study in that. And then you can study different communities and how they are affecting that particular ecosystem. Then you can go on to studying one kind of population and see how that affects or how that interacts with the rest. Then you can study one organism and see how life works, like a tree, how it functions, and so on and so forth. Then you can choose one organ system and see what are all the things that it has and what is the function of each of that part of that leaf, and what does it do, what are the stomata that is present, what is the transpiration rate, and so many things you can read. And then each tissues, everything is composed of a group of cells. Same kind of cells is a tissue. You can see that. And then one cell can be taken as an individual entity and still studied. And the organelle that is responsible for causing such a big impact, photosynthesis, we can study by taking into consideration what a chloroplast functions like, what are the different parts, and so on. And then you can talk about what the chlorophyll molecule is like and why does it behave that it does, so on and so forth. All of this is biology, but you have been going one step down and reaching out to find out more details about the next lower level that you are going into. All of this is factored together to one group, and it's called reductionism. Okay. Okay, so this is one kind of, so you should be able to identify what a biosphere, and then what communities. So like, for example, there is an example of, okay, please go ahead and draw with coral reef as your ecosystem, and as the anemone fish as the organism, and the digestive system, and the nucleus. Okay, and the DNA. I'm giving you just the bare basics. So you have to talk about the biosphere, what it is, then what is the ecosystem, and what are the different kinds of communities present in it, what are the different kinds of populations. So one population of anemone, one anemone. Okay, and then it has different digestive system, circulatory system, excretory system, nervous system. You have chosen the digestive system, of which you chose one organ, the stomach, and in the stomach you chose it has a lot of different kind of, say, epithelial tissue that you took, and in that epithelial tissue you have cells which have nucleus present in it, and the nucleus has DNA, and that's how you go on to give me a list of where you start with and what each group can have as a list of things as part of it, kind of like the way it is clustered here. Okay, so we go to another facet of biology wherein we are talking about organisms. They interact with the environment by transferring energy, obtaining energy, and lots of energy conversions take place, which is all fine. So for example, here you have the sunlight hitting onto the plants, which are called the producers, which have the photosynthetic system present in them, and they convert the light energy into chemical energy. And then you have the giraffe consuming that, so it consumes the chemical. Then you have the lion consuming the giraffe or the baby giraffe or something else. That you would have the secondary consumers as part of that, and then you would have a cycling of chemical nutrients in this process, like they would consume it or they would let off waste, which is taken care of by the decomposers or detritus that is being formed, and so on and so forth. But at every step you have heat being lost. At every conversion, every transfer of energy, there is some amount of heat that's being lost, okay, into the atmosphere, and that's it. You can never catch it back again. So you can have cycling of the nutrients, chemicals, but energy is one directional, unidirectional. You can never recycle energy. Okay. Okay, so now we go to the topic where you try to understand whether a particular form has a certain meaning to it. I mean, the way a certain bird looks or a way a certain creature looks, and is there any meaning to it? So basically, we're trying to put together two things. Oh, it looks like this. It must be to help it to do this, this, this. Kind of like you have bones of birds are hollow. Now, what is the purpose? What could the purpose possibly be? Why would you have hollow bones? That means they are very lightweight. One, they would have less density, and they would make it easy for the bird to fly and stay in air for longer periods. That is one. Then you look at the wingspan of the bird, and then they say, oh, okay, this kind of bird is capable of soaring up in the sky and staying like a glide, can glide in the sky. Okay, so kind of like a glider plane, it can stay and soar in the sky. And another one which has got small wings, oh, this one cannot really fly up, it can just hop from one tree to the other in short distances and short heights and so on and so forth. So you look at the form of a certain creature, and you sort of make observations, and you understand why that form and how that form helps that particular creature. So basically, to say structure and function are correlated. Okay. Another example is the mitochondria. Now, I am pretty sure that mitochondria, each and every one of you has heard as part of the cell. This is like the most important, because he is the sorry, one second. He is the energy factory, or the factory where energy is being extracted out, basically. So that means what happens is I have to maximize, so you have something known as electron transport chain happening, and that has to, as much of that happens, then you can have as much of ATP being produced. For that, what happens is the inner membrane of the mitochondria is sort of folded and folded and folded and folded and folded and folded and folded. It has so many infoldings, which is, when you stretch it out, is bigger than the mitochondria itself, meaning it offers a greater surface area. This helps in maximizing the output of energy. Okay, so we moved to the part where cell is the basic unit of life. So that is another facet that we need to know. Now, you have cell. If you consider it as a cell, it is an individual unit or an entity. Now, there are organisms that are live with just one single cell. That's it. That's what they are composed of. And they are called prokaryotes. And then you have, again, unicellular, and moving on to being multicellular organisms which have cells, and these cells are classified as eukaryotes. Now, why would one be called prokaryote and why would one be called eukaryote? Because of the differences between the two. First difference, prokaryotes are very small. Okay, about eukaryotes are 100 times. Eukaryotes are 100 times larger. Okay, and then that is one of the difference. Second is, now you have the cell. Okay, this is the prokaryotic cell. I'm going to call this U and this is P. Okay, so you have the plasma membrane. This also has the plasma membrane. Then it has the nucleus. This has some nuclear material present. The nuclear material has been enclosed. Okay, let's try one color so you understand. The nuclear material is enclosed, whereas this guy does not have anything that can cover it. This is a nuclear membrane. Now, a eukaryote has its nucleus enclosed with a nuclear membrane, whereas a prokaryote does not have a cover does not have a cover. No cover. Not covered. Okay, that is their biggest difference. And the second, after that, or the third one is in eukaryotes, you can see organelles like mitochondria, chloroplast, Golgi apparatus. You can have endoplasmic reticulum, lysosomes, etc. Whereas in prokaryotes, no organelles except ribosome. Ribosome is present here too. Okay. So only ribosome is present as an organelle in prokaryotes. Otherwise, it does not have other organelles that is seen in eukaryotes. Okay. Then next facet is the DNA is blueprint for continuity. What do I mean by that? Now, you look like your little bit like your mama, little bit like your papa. Okay. Why? Because they gave you a sperm and an egg, and that's you. All right. So where did that come from? That came from the DNA, also called deoxyribonucleic acid. Okay, so you come from a union of these two cells to form a fertilized egg, and you move on to become a baby. Where is all this information coming from? The DNA that your mama and papa supplied. Where did they get it? From their mama and papa, and from their mama and papa. So it is like one of those things that has been there forever. Okay, let's move to the next. Okay, so now I am going to talk about something, but before that, have you seen this? In one of the malls at Tyson's, I think, in a shopping mall, I have seen this from up. So you have these bowls with food and covered, and they keep moving on onto this conveyor belt, and you can just pick up one, and then eventually it will get replaced with someone else. So basically, as and when it moves, you can pick up whatever you want, and if you pick up that lady who is watching over it will go and replace it back into that. Okay, another example is you have the vending machine. You have a lot of drinks. Okay, drinks, chocolate, chips. Okay, in the drinks you have soda, you have lemon juice, okay, or you have Coke, or you have Sprite, you have water. Let me take these as an example. So once a week there is this man who would come back and replace the vending machine. Now that has the capacity to put, say, 15, like one behind the other in that vending machine. So now when he comes back, he sees that only 5 are left. He sees that only 3 are left. He sees that 0. Everything is taken up. Here he sees that about 10 are left. Here he sees that about 8 are left. So now, will he put back 15, 15, 15, 15, 15 for all of them? That makes no sense. Why would he do that? If there is only 5 left, he'll add 10 here. He will add 12 here. He will add all 15 here. He will add only 5 here. He will add 7 here. Doesn't that make sense? And he'll put it behind. Okay. Now, what did he do? He sort of restricted unnecessary addition of material and added only as needed. Right? He's just sort of being smart, saving waste, preventing waste from happening, and saving energy and saving material and saving the food by not just indiscriminately adding things. Okay, so basically he has visually looked at something and put a control over it. Okay, in your real life, okay, you will have something like that happening. Now, supposing chemical A, an enzyme 1 is acting on it, making it into chemical B. Then enzyme 2 is acting on it, making into chemical C, then chemical D, and so on. So once this is happening, and I have a lot of it being made, is it really necessary to make more? No, it is not necessary to make more. Why? Because you're wasting that much energy, wasting the effort of this guy, and this guy. So your body, it's not like a person will come and stand and make a decision. So your body has certain mechanisms in which it will be smart enough to prevent kind of waste of energy, waste of material, and excess being made. So this final product D will go and block this reaction, okay, negatively. So he will prevent formation of more. Okay, so that is why it is called negative feedback. Okay, so that's one. On the other hand, sometimes what happens is one reaction is a little slow and it sort of gets done, but I need more. So this particular last product might go and sit and stimulate one enzyme to say, hey, go ahead, make more. And I sort of ensure that a lot of that particular product is being made for whatever reason it's required in the cell. Okay. So you also have another facet where in the beginning I was talking to you about life has a lot of things that brings everyone together, and in life you will see so much diversity. Okay, so let's talk about the diversity part of it right now. Okay, so you have different forms of living creatures. They are all classified into different forms, different types, and put under different groups for different reasons. Oh, the structure looks like this. Oh, it looks like this. Oh, it photosynthesizes. Oh, it is looking like this. It has chitin as the cell wall. Oh, it is a decomposer, and so on and so forth. So everything is sort of grouped in different parts. So then they will sort of try to find out from where it all started. Okay, so when they say, okay, all living forms are divided into three main domains. Okay, a domain of prokaryote, which includes bacteria. Then a domain of archaea. Initially, lots of people thought that it was part of this particular group, and they grouped it together. And then they found out lots of different things about them. Differences present in them. Okay, differences present, and so they said, oh no, prokaryotes and archaea are different. So this is prokaryote for you. This is archaea. Now, where are archaea normally found? Archaea are normally found in extreme environments. Okay, they're found in extreme environments, like you would say glaciers, thermal vents, geysers, volcanic areas, zones, etc. So then an extreme acid environment, extreme salt environment, and so on and so forth. Okay, so they are like guys who like to live on the edge, I would like to say that. Okay, then you have a more let's say sophisticated or more evolved than the prokaryotes, the eukaryotes. I already, a few slides back, I told you what are the differences between a prokaryote and a eukaryote. Eukaryotes again are divided into 4 main parts. One is plant, then animals, then fungi. And then you have protists. Now these protists are unicellular. They can be plant-like or animal-like. Okay. So, and you have everything, all the diverse flora and fauna being classified into different groups. The classification starts with domain being the most general form of classification and species being the most specific form. So then comes kingdom, like plant kingdom, animal kingdom, fungal kingdom, protists being another kingdom. Then you have phylum. Okay, then you have class, order, family, genus, and species. Okay, and another way to remember it is dear King Philip came over. This is a typo, I apologize. Came over for good spaghetti. Okay, so that sort of tells you in what listing they are in, which will help you remember any question. Like for example, is family more broad in its classification than phylum? You should be able to answer that question. Philip meaning phylum. Phylum is higher in the level. It is more general and broader in its classification as compared to family. Family is more specific as compared to phylum. Kind of questions like that. It helps you understand and remember. Okay, here you have the pictures of different forms. Okay, then we move to the next, wherein we see unity in all this diversity. Okay, first the DNA that you and me share. Okay, we have the same kind of molecules that make it up. Okay, you have the same bases, you have the phosphate, you have the sugar, all of that double-stranded, put it together. So DNA is one common thing that binds everyone together. Then you have something known as genetic code. It is like a language that your cell uses. Okay, and it's like very common. So the same genetic code used by bacterium and the genetic code used by your cells are the same. Okay, there is no difference. So that sort of unifies us then, even though we are so diverse, like a bacterium is so different from us still. Okay, and here the explanation is there is a cilia of a protist, and this is protist. Okay, once again, protist. There is a cilia of a protist and cilia of windpipe cells of humans. You make a cross section of that and then you see the structure, underlying structure is exactly the same that for both of them. So you do have some commonality. Your cells have commonality with a protist. Do you see that? Okay. Okay. So now we move to one facet where we are talking about natural selection. Okay, natural selection is one theory that sort of explains, and it is like the best explanation provided for all the things that are happening around us. Okay, so it started with Charles Darwin, the explorer, and he went on to go and observe some sea finches in the island of Galapagos. Okay, and he noticed a lot of things about them. He saw finches having small beak, thin small beak, and then he saw finches having broad huge beaks. Then he saw finches having This is like a little far-fetched. A finch doesn't have a beak like that. Just a second. Small beak, then you have a broad beak, then you have a thin insect-like beak. So this one was for soft cacti, for eating soft cacti. This one was cracking hard nuts. This one was for insects from the crevices. But they were all finches. They were all in different islands. So he noticed what kind of food source was available. Okay, that sort of drove these finches to evolve, and the best fit, meaning the finch whose genetics determined that it would have this kind of beak, survived better in an island where there were a lot of soft cacti available. And those finches who were stranded in an island where it was very hard and dry and only dry nuts would be available, and they survived in this particular island by breaking the nuts, which they could because of the beaks which they had like this. So basically it underlines the sentence saying only the best adapted creature can survive and pass on the genes to the next generation. In another word, you have natural environment sort of selects for beneficial traits. Okay. So another way in this is you have say a black background. So this is the environment of the say where these bugs are found. This is the environment that they are found in. So some are gray in color, some are dark in color, some are light in color. Okay. Now a bird which wants to eat this particular bug, these guys are the ones that can be easily seen, right? These guys. But these guys, the darker ones, can't be easily seen. So what happens is they come and prey on it, they finish and they eliminate these white colored guys. The darker colored guys are able to go meet Mrs. Right, fall in love, have babies, and then have lots and lots of babies who in future can continue to keep looking like them, have their genetic traits, and so on and so forth. And suddenly after a few generations you will only see that that area has dark colored bug, not a light colored bug. And you will say, oh wow, in this area it is so dark and the bug is exact color of that environment. But it is all through a period of trial and error and testing and testing and testing again for the best fit, and the best fit for that environment gets selected, and that's the only one that is able to find food, find a mate, and pass its genes on to the next generation. Okay. This I would normally talk in the lab because I do have a window of time to talk in the lab about this, and I introduce an experiment. But now that we are talking about this in my recorded lecture, I will still talk about it here. Okay. So inquiry, meaning what? I have a question. I need answers. Okay, so that's what it means. You can have two different types of inquiries: discovery-based science and hypothesis-based science. Okay, both of these things will lead to accumulation of data. Let's talk about each one of them. Okay, discovery-based science is when you describe a situation, then you observe. You keep observing, 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 and then you collect a lot of data. Collect data. Okay, this data can be qualitative or quantitative, and then you analyze that data and then you make your conclusion. So this conclusion that you make is based on the logic called inductive reasoning, meaning you generalize with a large number of observations. An example that I could give is to study the gorilla behavior. Jane Goodall, the scientist, Jane Goodall, she went ahead and sat down for hours, weeks, months, just kept observing the chimps and observed a lot of things. From there, she made a lot of conclusion about their hierarchical social order, how they interact, what would each of their stance mean, what would they do, who they listen to, how is the mother caring, how do they choose a mate, and so on and so forth. So all of this, and then she would say, oh, okay, this is a matriarchal based social order or a patriarchal based social order, and whatever the big boss says, that goes, and so on and so forth. Many things you can make conclusion out of. So another one which is very common is, you can say, sun rises in the east. When you say sun rises in the east, how did you know that? Why? I see it in the east every day. So I made an observation with a large number of observation. So then I made that conclusion. Come on, this is east and it rises from this direction. So sun rises in the east. That's it. Okay. Hypothesis-based science, on the other hand, is what causes this to happen? Why do I get pimples? Why is this particular remote not working? Okay, supposing there is a remote in your house and you have these buttons and everything, and the remote is not working. What would you do first? You'll sort of tap it angrily. You'll press the buttons angrily. So you thought, oh, okay, it's not working. Maybe there is some loose connection. The button is not. If I press it 2 times, it will work. Did it work? No, it didn't work. So then what did you do? You sort of say, oh, okay, let me change the batteries. Maybe the batteries are gone. So you change the batteries. It still didn't work. Okay. So then you think, what could it be? What could it be? I changed the batteries and it's still not working. So that means nothing is wrong with the remote, but it's still not working. Okay. Maybe the connection is loose with the TV, right? I mean, the plug, maybe the TV is not on and it's not responding. So then you go and check that connection. You check it and then fine. And then you say, oh, maybe the domain or the server is not the same or something like that. And then you go. And then finally you get so mad, you go and call your dad. Dad, why is this not? Oh, we didn't pay the bill. We are changing the service. So that means that service provider is not there. That's why it's not working. So you come to know. Do you see that you made a lot of conclusions to specifically answer a certain situation that you have observed, and you you made a lot of observations, right? And then you worked towards rectifying it, or worked towards a plan to make it work, right? And you tried it, it didn't work. So what did you do? You changed your hypothesis. Okay, so this is like you give a tentative answer to a well-framed question. Why so and so, or what causes so and so? And then the educated guess, which is based on experiments. You perform the experiment, you conduct the experiment, you get data out of that, and then you interpret it. And this is called deductive reasoning. Okay, and it is like, if organisms are made of cells and humans are organisms, then humans are made of cells. This is the kind of deductive reasoning. So you sort of peel off all the generalizations to find out answers to a specific situation. Okay, so remember, every time a hypothesis must be testable and it must be proved right or proved wrong. Okay, a simpler example would be, if you don't water plants, they will die and die. Okay, that is okay. That is my hypothesis. But it also depends. What kind of plants? Where are the plants present? Now, if it is a cactus, please, you should not keep watering them continuously. Okay, are they in the sun or in the shade? What kind of soil is present? For how long should I water? So all of these things that you look at, and then you tweak your hypothesis, you can rewrite them. Okay. Then this is like a classical example of a flashlight in a camp, kind of like how I talked to you about the remote not working. Okay, so initially you hypothesize saying the batteries are dead, you replace it and you fix the problem, but no, it's not working. So that means that test sort of falsifies that the batteries are dead, and that is why the remote is not working. It falsifies that. Maybe the light bulb is burnt out, so you replace the bulb and you fix the bulb. Yes. Now it does not falsify, so that means you know that it has worked. Okay, so then there is a case study from the textbook. The case study from the textbook is there are two kinds of snakes. Both of them are bright colored and they look similar. One is the non-poisonous scarlet king snake, and the other one is poisonous coral snake. Why would this one non-poisonous snake look similar to the poisonous snake? Okay, so you sort of observed why they look similar, and you made a hypothesis. It is mimicry, and there is evolutionary adaptation. They are adapted towards deceiving the predator which comes and preys on them. Okay. Now, there are some regions where both these snakes are found together in the US. And that means the predators are exposed to both the poisonous snakes and the non-poisonous snakes. What they do is they avoid both the snakes. And they do it inherently, not out of past experience, because once you get stung, you don't survive to live the tale, tell the tale to the others. You do not live. Live to tell the tale of your experience. Okay, so here you have the scarlet king snake, which is non-poisonous, and the coral snake, which is poisonous. Now, there is a range where only the scarlet king snake is present in this particular, and it's non-poisonous. There is a range where king and coral both are present. Non-poisonous and poisonous are present. So here what happens is, very importantly, here in this case you have predators which can see. First of all, it's a very striking looking snake, so they can easily see. Okay, and when they can easily see, that means they think, oh, food, attack. So it is not a very good idea for this guy to be easily seen in such a situation. But that's the way it is, and he can be easily seen and that. But in this particular area, they can be easily seen in this area also, but not attacked. They inherently avoid. So they try to find out with a test, like a field test they do. Okay, what do they do? Okay, there is a experiment that is devised. We take rubber snakes, brown colored snakes and colorful snakes, and we place it in different parts and place in different parts and test after a few days. So then in certain places where only poisonous snakes were present, the brown snake was bitten more, brown rubber snake, and less on the colorful, because predators avoid it, remember? Why was the brown snake kept in the first place? I would like to know and cover the possibility, hey, in these regions, do they eat snakes at all? Are there creatures which eat snakes at all? I need to cover that part. Otherwise, then this kind of test is immaterial. I mean, I cannot really make a conclusion in that. Okay, so in zone B, where the poisonous snakes are absent, there is less bites on the brown and more on the colorful. Why? Because brown is not easily seen. He is easily seen. So in this case, where there is overlap, there is more bites on the brown and less on the colorful. Okay. So they put and retrieved after, and they had a data. We are talking about why did I put the brown snakes, to rule out the possibility. And then all of this involves in trying to have a controlled experiment wherein you're controlling all the different variables as much as possible and having a test with which only your data is going to whatever you get is going to reveal answers to the question that you're searching for, and not put doubts because of, oh, maybe this variable, or maybe that happened, or maybe it is not. So you try to take care of all the different facets and bring in control so that the answer that you want is derived by how smartly you devise that experiment. Okay, so you have to have control, you have to have other variables that is taken care of. Like for example, in the right season, suppose you put it in winter when there are no predators and everything, or like the birds have migrated out. What is the point? You cannot make any conclusion. So you make it at a season where you would see that these guys are maximum in number. Okay, and then you'll also put it in proper. If you put it on the road, what is the point? You should put it in the bushes where you are expecting these snakes to be present in their natural habitat, and then in the nooks and crannies and caves and moisture-laden areas where they are present, and so on and so forth. Also, your experiment must be repeatable. That is a very, very important factor. Okay. Okay, here what we have is a rubber model of the coral snake, okay, and a rubber model of a brown snake. Okay, you can see that this particular brown snake has been attacked. Now, normally, where would you see it? Brown snakes are like pretty difficult to see and observe, all right, and coral snakes are easy to see and observe. Okay, where would you find more of attack seen on brown snake is where you have the coral snake which is present. It is poisonous, so predators avoid it, and they prefer to attack brown ones. Got that? Okay, so this is the result. Wherever you had the coral snake which was absent, that means the predators happily attacked the most colorful one. Okay, wherever there were coral snakes present, they preferred to attack the brown ones and not the colorful ones. In this place, you had your king snake surviving. Snake is surviving. So he has adapted to look like the coral snake, and the purpose is, like, the hypothesis sort of supports my the experiment sort of supports my hypothesis that this kind of adaptation is seen, and the best explanation for this is mimicry. Okay, so scientific theory. Now you have hypothesis, you have theory. Okay, hypothesis is answer to a specific question by performing an experiment and proving it. Whereas a theory is like more broader in scope, more general, and you have evidence of observations, a large number of observations to support.